Welkom, welkom. Ons gesels vandag met Beatenberg. Ja, die eens Suid-Afrikaanse band wat nou internasionaal is. Ons gesels spesifiek met Matfield Beatenberg natuurlik, Matfield en Robin Brink en Ross Dawkin, maar ons gesels met Matt vanmôre en ons gesels na aanleiding van die spiksplinter nuwe album wat nou onlangs uitgereik is, Beatenburg, The Great Fires of Beatenburg. How's it going, Matt?
Good, thank you.
Lovely having you in studio. Are you visiting Cape Town?
Yeah, I'm leaving soon. Yeah, but it's been a very nice time here. I've been rejuvenated by the sun and the sea and the people, so that's cool.
Lovely, lovely. Matt, let's first talk about producing and working in different countries. I mean, that must be quite an issue for you guys. Well, have you found a nice work around it? Because some of the stuff is produced in the UK, some of it in Berlin. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I guess it's been a bit of a long and winding road to get this album done. Obviously, many of the songs were started just in my home studio back in South Africa, and then I moved to London and worked on some of them there, and then came back to South Africa to record with a producer from the UK, and then went back to London again where Russ is living, and then worked with him. So it was kind of all over the place. And then Rob would fly in from Berlin a couple of times. So yeah, it makes things a little more complicated, and you know, life goes on and you have to figure different ways out of like making a thing like a band survive. So you have to be flexible.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think, you know, we've just been working out ways to keep it going because we all feel that there's something magic there to preserve. So yeah, we're just figuring it out. Each time it's different. Each time we make an album, it's different.
First time in 5 years that you have released an album. Why did you feel the time is right now?
I don't think we necessarily thought the time is now. It's more that it just can sometimes take a long time to get ready to do things, and all sorts of other things happened. Obviously, it was the COVID time. I started a solo project in the meantime as well. So I don't think it was a deliberate thing of waiting for the right moment, but just, you know, by the time things come together and everything was right, and, you know, suddenly 5 years have gone by, which that's just life, I guess.
The title of this album, it's The Fire of Beatenburg, Great Fire of Beatenburg.
Yeah.
There's always some nice quirkiness to the album titles, as opposed to the usual just run-of-the-mill kind of titles that some albums get. Tell us more about the motivation behind it. Was the Hanging Gardens, and then it was the 12 Views, and yeah, and this, you know, what now, the Great Fires. I mean, why the titles?
I still remember when I had the idea for the Hanging Gardens. It was just I was driving. For some reason, I was driving at night, and probably shouldn't have, but I was like texting someone. I texted the group as I had the idea, because it's like that was definitely what it should have been called. I liked it. Obviously started with that, to the trend of having our name in the title, and the Great Fire. I think it just sort of reflected the sort of anxiety of the time, and the fact that sometimes when I was working on the album, it felt like, you know, a bit like what's the point of doing all these songs when sort of everything's sort of wrong with the world and that kind of thing. Then on the other hand, fire is also sort of a warm and transformative thing, and obviously people like to use the fire emoji and call stuff fire when it's good and stuff like that. So I thought that was funny as well. So it kind of covers both the good and bad. And then obviously references also to the Great Fire of London, which is where I was living, or I'm living now. So it's another sort of tradition of, like, obviously the first one was great. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, Beatenberg substituted for that, and now Beatenberg substitutes for London. So I like the idea of Beatenberg sort of being put in place of these places or cities that have many, sort of rich symbolism within as well as being, well, in the case of London, it's a real place.
Actually quite nice if you think about it, like you say, about the fire, recreation of fire, the crucible of fire, and being in London. Exactly. It's actually a lovely, lovely title. Tell us more about some of the singles on this, some of the songs.
So yeah, there's what's just come out with the album is Branches on a Tree, which is a song I wrote with Sanel musician, which I'm very happy with. And yeah, that's a very vibey song, and I hope people enjoy it. Otherwise, there are another few songs I wrote with Trezor, who I work with a lot. Barrow is a fun song, it's almost silly love song, I suppose, in a way. And then other songs which I like, are kind of unusual maybe for our style, like Bath Towels and I'll Be There, are quite a lot more emotionally direct, I suppose, which is interesting. And I'm curious to know how people respond to them. Yeah, there's a wide range of songs. And yeah, I particularly like songs like Don't Call Her Over to You, which was actually the first single we put out. Yeah, it feels like it represents quite a lot of the aspects of the band and the different kind of musical and emotional tones that we can, I don't know, reach.
If you look back at where you started with your first album, as you've grown and the rest of the band have grown in experience and as musicians in your own right and not just the band, would you say that your sound has changed, or the way in which you approach an album has changed a little bit as all of you've grown slightly older?
Yeah, I definitely think that things change. Like I said before, like almost every time you try and do something, it's necessarily different because it's not the same. And in terms of our sound, I think if anything, your sound changes even though you might not want it to. I mean, in some ideal world, it would be nice to do the Hanging Gardens again, exactly, because everyone liked it and it was a fulfilling experience, and it gave me a real sense of not just creative fulfillment, but also sort of recognition and things. And that's hard to replicate. So I think you almost start from a point of it being different, and you sometimes, in our case, you're looking back to try and figure out what was going on then that made it work in that way. And without trying too hard to replicate it, because that doesn't really work, you try and find a version of that now. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's definitely different, but I can't say how it's different musically, because there are obviously current threads or things that are in common, and there are ways that music sounds that, you know, there's signatures and things that people will recognize. But yeah, I think time moves on, and you in a different part of your life and have different feelings and things to say. So that definitely comes into it, and you've got to find the best way of doing that. I hope that this is a sort of that kind of return that I spoke about now, where it feels like people can recognize maybe something of what they liked in us initially, but we'll see.
Matt, thank you very much for joining us. It's been lovely chatting. Best of luck with the Great Fire of Beatenberg. It's going to be an album that's once again going to be defining, I think. You've been quoted as saying you've since forever, you've been trying to put form to feeling and emotion. And a lot of these tracks here is exactly that. It's putting form to a feeling, which is lovely and it's lovely for a listener to listen to it and being able to do the same thing. And that's always been a nice thing about Beatenberg's music for me personally. And it's been lovely having you today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time, and best of luck with the new album.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here. It's always great to chat with you. Thanks so much.
Great. Nou ja, daar's nou 'n album as jy nou hou van iets niets, né? Nee? Iets niets. Nou ja, dan gaan nog kyk jy nou gaan luister jy gerus na The Great Fires of Beatenburg. Dis nie like Matt Field waarmee ons gesels het. En die drie ander twee dele van die band is Robin Brink en Ross Dawkins.